Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. Awesome. Looks like we already have some folks in the chat. So welcome to everybody who has chosen to spend their evening with us. Super exciting. For those of you who maybe are new to Gloss Genius webinars, maybe you've been here before, we do have a live chat. So feel free to drop, notes to us. We have a little emoji cannon, whatever you want to do, definitely interact. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Well, let's kind of get into the meat of tonight's program. So, hi, everybody. My name is Nicole. I am from the Gloss Genius team. As many of you guys probably already know, at Gloss Genius, we really believe that business owners deserve to see their effort translate directly into profit. And today we're here to talk about the steps that you can take to change your financial narrative and create better outcomes for yourself and your business. And I am super excited because today isn't about tips and tricks. We're going to cover 5 actionable strategies that can create a fundamental shift in how you view your numbers and grow your business. And tonight's all about moving from a scarcity mindset to a profitability playbook. Joining me is somebody who is the real expert and has helped thousands of owners stop undercharging and start leading. So please welcome salon business consultant and Oligo business education ambassador, Nina Tullio.
Yay. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I feel like we've been talking about this for so long now. So I'm so excited that it's actually here and I'm ready to get into it.
Love it. Love it. Yes, Nina and I have been in chats about this amazing program since last year, which is December of last year.
Wild.
It's so exciting. And we're so excited to have you here. With that, I'm going to ask a more formal question to the chat. I feel like people are already starting to do this, which is so cool. This is a question I always love to ask. Who do we have with us here? So drop your name, where you're located, and what you do. Love to see how many folks from all around the country are here joining us. Oh my gosh. New York, Ohio,
Yay.
North Carolina in the chat, New York in the chat, Chicago, a lot of Chicago, Florida. Whoa, oh my God. Chats are
Wow.
too quick. When the chat is too quick. Amazing. Looks like we got some STs and nail techs, salon suite owners. Amazing. I think there's going to be something for everybody in our program. So you're absolutely in the right place. A lot of good Idaho representation. Amazing.
Yes. We got some PA people here too. Yes. Love that.
We love to see it. Vermont, St. Augustine, one of my favorite towns. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. And we're going to dive in. And again, we have this chat function for a reason. If you have any reactions, thoughts, questions, drop them in the chat. We are going to have time at the end dedicated for Q&A. But in the meantime, we do try to tackle some comments and questions as they come in. So again, your thoughts are absolutely welcome. So before we jump into a little bit more programming, let's also get a profit reality check in the chat. So this is a question for everybody out there who's feeling a little vulnerable. How does checking your numbers make you feel? Looking at those data points, no wrong answers. Curious how everybody feels about checking out their numbers or reviewing how things are going. Overwhelmed. Oh my God. Kayla. Yes. Scared. Nervous. Oh my gosh. Nina, I wonder if you have any reactions to that feeling.
I do. It's interesting because this is very normal. Like these feelings are super normal: overwhelmed, scared, sad, avoidance, just trying to wrap our head around it. And so I think I love the transparency. I love the honesty.
Yeah.
We've got some anxiety, lost, these are real feelings. And this is why, we're doing this today, is to get you a little bit more comfortable so we can maybe move you out of that overwhelm a little bit and give you a little bit of clarity around your numbers.
100%. Yeah, hopefully by the end of this, you'll feel like you have some things in your toolkit that will make you feel less overwhelmed and nervous, a little bit of a strategy. Amazing. Well, with that, let's jump into the first of those strategies. So this is all about shifting your financial mindset. So going from that scared, anxious, cringe feeling that you feel maybe into a little bit more of a Zen space. So Nina, you often say that profitability starts in the mind before it ever hits the ledger. Can you talk to us about scarcity mindset and how it can be really negative to businesses and even bleed them dry?
Well, I mean, I'm straight up going to be honest, like just speaking from my own experience, it's, how we how we grow up, what we learn about money, what we see in money, when we're growing up, and we take these things with us, right? And a lot of times, some of us have a good relationship with money, some of us don't. And I'm one that did not have a good relationship with money, and it really impacted my business when I had my salon. And
Mm.
so I think the scarcity mindset is constantly keeping us still and stuck. It's that voice inside of our head that is like, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't make more money, you shouldn't make more profit, and it keeps us small. And I think, unfortunately, it impacts a lot of us in this industry. And I think we tend to avoid, we tend to, which I did, only looking at profit and loss statements like at the end of the year. This was me, like the first 5 years of my business. We tend to internalize a lot. And so I think what happens then is sometimes that could turn into discounting. That could turning into giving stuff away for free. That could turn into you really giving away a lot of your value, when it comes to that mindset. And that scarcity mindset is sometimes can be so heavy and strong that we really have to dig a lot deeper to kind of get on the other side of it. But when we do, look out, right? Because then it's like game over, game on.
Yeah, 100%. And I know you talk about this concept of the discounting trap. And, this is kind of this concept of like you are pre discounting services before they even
Mhm.
happen. You're
Yeah.
making decisions for your clients before they
Mhm.
ever make them themselves. And you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot as a result. I wonder if anybody in the chat has ever like reached the end of a service and not mentioned retail, or maybe
Mhm.
when you're trying to book somebody into a service, you don't mention an add-on because you already thought, well, this total's high enough. It's not important to do this. You're discounting yourself before the client can ask
Yeah.
for anything. Does that
Yeah.
resonate with anybody? I'm curious. Looks like we got some typers. I think people are resonating with this.
They're in it. I wanted to add, if I could, I
Yeah.
think a lot of times what we do too is if we don't get the reaction that we're looking for from the client,
Yep.
we're then like, well, I told them it was going to be 300, but I didn't get the reaction. Do they like it? I'll do it for 250. Or, we spend other people's money and we really think like, oh, they're really going through it, so I shouldn't be charging. So even though I told them it was going to be 250, I'm only going to charge them 200. It's very emotional.
Yep.
And again, just speaking from experience, I think that it is one of the things that we're such empathic, kind souls, right? Which is amazing in a lot of ways. But I say this a lot, and I want you guys to hear me loud and clear when I say this. Anything in excess becomes a weakness. And there is a point to that where if we're giving too much and we're going over the top to compromise self,
Yep.
that we are giving away our own value. And we start to, tell clients like, oh, don't worry, you don't have to pay for that. Like, I know you're going through a rough time, or thinking that I didn't get the reaction. Like, I'm not going to offer them retail. I'm not going to charge them full price. I think we go through a lot of this in our head, but
Yeah.
if we had facts and data behind the way that we were pricing, it would shift things for us,
Yep. Yep. No, definitely. And I think you're starting to tap on this here, Nina, but I wonder like when people are identifying, which definitely people are in the chat identifying with this problem,
Mhm.
how do you stop it? Like what's the first thing you would recommend doing to kind of break that negative pattern?
Well, there's a couple things. I think the first thing in anything that we're trying to overcome or conquer is to recognize it.
Yeah.
Like we have to recognize that there's a pattern here and this is what we're doing. If you get a certain feeling when you're trying to upsell or sell retail or say the price at the end of your service, which of course talking price and consultation is key, but then like following through with it. If you
Yeah.
start to get that feeling, it's like, wait a minute, what can I reevaluate within myself and how can I hold myself accountable and
Yeah.
commit to me that I'm going to stand strong on what I said in the consultation, no matter what the reaction is, no matter what their situation is, because they're choosing to be with you. And part of them being with you is for you to make them feel good and look good, right? So don't discount that. I think recognizing it is one, right? Hitting it dead on and saying, I see a pattern in this, and I know that this is something that I need to change. And if I don't change, what's in it for me? If I
Right.
keep going the way that I'm going, what does my business actually look like? And then the other side of it is the accountability side. Okay, I recognize it. I know that this is something that I want to change. I'm going to hit it head on. How am I going to do that? What are the conversations that I need to have with myself to push myself outside of that comfort zone? Because I was the discounter. I
Yep.
was the person giving stuff away for free as an owner, and it was hitting rock bottom for me and really starting to think about wait a minute, like I'm working 6 days a week. And I want to know if people can relate to this, working 6 days a week, not making a dime. I'm broke. I have no money in the bank and I am working my butt off for what? At what cost?
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes we have to hit that bottom. And then that's when the accountability comes in and we're like, wait a minute, I know I got myself here, but I can absolutely get myself out of it. And it really is about believing in self and staying true to your prices and your consultations and really believing that no matter who sits in your chair, that you're adding value to their day. And
Yeah.
so I think it's a combination of those things, but it's also the consistency. That's my
Yep.
favorite C word, by the way. The consistency in all of this that we're going to talk about today. It's not like we do it once. It's like, no, if you get that feeling of anxiety, like, oh God, I have to tell them the price at the end, you're going to take a deep breath, you're going to let it go, and you're going to say, I rock this. I
Yep.
already talked to them about it in the consultation, and I'm going to stick to it, and I'm going to commit to myself.
Yep, absolutely. No, I love that. No, it sounds like folks in the audience are super, super relating here. We're going to dive even more into some other areas where you guys could be recovering some of this stuff. So I want to share a little bit about one of the things that can help you too, which is just identifying the trends in your business and really like staying
Mhm.
true to those and making decisions based on data. So we just released this new tool from Gloss Genius called the AI Growth Analyst. This is a little kind of demo that's playing here. Basically, you can better understand your business, what's happening, your pricing, and opportunities that might be within. With this data-driven partner that's working around the clock to find hidden revenue opportunities in your
Mm.
business. So
Mhm.
find clients that are able or ready to book more, services that could be priced differently or higher, and peak hours that are tending to go unfilled. You can see here, you can ask really plain English questions, and it will provide you with customized answers using real-time trends. So this can be super helpful. Where in the past, perhaps if you were trying to look for these trends on your own, you would be digging through static reports for hours. That's a thing of the past with something like this. So something to keep in mind too is to really utilize those actionable insights inside of your software to kind of make those pricing decisions, to stand firm on them. Why am I standing firm on these pricing decisions? Well, because they're backed up by data. They're real.
Mhm.
They're true to me, my business, my experience, and what I need to survive, right? So I think folks, if this is interesting to you, definitely check it out. We'll get more into how at the end if you're not familiar with Gloss Genius. But if you use us already, hot tip, AI Growth Analyst is here and you should absolutely check it out. So just a quick plug there.
Amen. I love that. Lean into the tools for sure, because you guys have a lot of information and so much
Yeah,
value. Speaking of value, you're offering so much value to beauty professionals too. So absolutely lean in.
amazing. Totally agree. And thanks, Fallon, for checking it out. I'm glad that it's working for you. Um, Amazing. Well, on this tip of making numbers really core to everything you do and being really smart with the data that's available to you, we're going to talk a little bit about making numbers a part of your salon culture. So, when it comes to motivating staff, Nina, even if the owner has the right mindset, profitability fails if a team isn't totally bought in. So, how would you say is the best strategy to get folks to care about the numbers without them feeling like they're salespeople or not, really feeling that buy-in to the entire salon success?
Interestingly enough, we don't talk about the numbers. So let me explain.
Yeah.
So when you're leading a team of people, you have to understand that they have to care about something in order to be engaged. And when people are engaged, they show up better for you, for the owner, for their business. When they buy into your brand, they show up better for you and for the business. And we're not looking for motivation because I think that gets skewed a lot. Like, how do I motivate my team? We're looking to engage the team because when they're engaged, it increases profitability. It's actually a stat out there that engaged teams increase profitability up to 23%. So, one of the things that I think is so important is when you're an owner, it shouldn't be like, these are my goals, these are my dreams. We've got to hit 100,000 or 200 for the salon, and we have to hit, 30 new clients a month. It isn't about you. It's actually about understanding what the team's goals are. Like individually having one-on-one coaching sessions and having, I call it a dream sesh, like a workshop with them one-on-one. And they write out before they come into the meeting, they write out all of the things that they want to accomplish in their life. It doesn't even have to do with anything in your salon business or in your beauty business. What their goals are, what their dreams are, how much money they want to make, something they're working toward. Maybe they want to buy a house or a car, right? And let's just use that as an example. So if I'm coaching you, Nicole, and you're one of my stylists, and you said to me from the dream sesh that you want to buy a car by the end of the year, I want to know what kind of car, what color car, what model that car is. I want to know how much money you have to put down. And I want to make sure that I do all that I can to get you there. And every single coaching session from there is no longer you hit, 2000 this week and your RTS was down and your retention was great. It's not even that conversation. It's like, hey, I want to look at your numbers with you, but first I want to know how you're doing working toward buying your car for this year. Do you feel that you're able to put that extra money away? Do you
Yep.
feel like you're getting closer? Do you feel like what we're doing together, keyword together, is getting you closer to that goal? Now, with that being said, these are your service dollars. They're up from last month. So now you have that extra money to put toward your car so you can reach that goal faster. It isn't anything about the salon and what we're doing and how we need to hit these goals. It's about your dream and goal. And then I'm inadvertently coaching you on that, looking at the business numbers, but always focusing on your goal and dream. That is the best way and most effective way to get people to buy into your business and then be most engaged.
Love that. No, I think it's such a smart strategy. And I wonder too if folks have ever experienced, any pushback when you kind of go numbers first or you try to start talking about
Mhm.
goals. Like, I think, a question for you all, what's the most common pushback that you get from staff or maybe
Yeah.
from peers? Like, even if you're just trying to talk to folks who are in the same industry as you, if you're a solo, hey, how are you guys doing? Like, what are some of the themes that you guys are seeing when you try to start these conversations or encourage people to dive in with you? I wonder if folks have any reactions to that. Maybe you're using Nina's strategy and you never have any problems at all, which would be amazing. And I hope
Amazing. Yeah.
everybody's having that too. But curious if anybody has any reactions.
I think too, and just coming from a space where I had a team of people, it has
Yeah.
to become a part of your culture.
Yeah.
Like we printed every week, we would print off our numbers. And of course they knew that this was happening. So we would hang it in the back room. It was part of it when they were hired. They get to see, they get to look where they are, they get to compare. And it was very friendly competition,
I love
but
that.
it's getting that onboarding them that way. So they understand that numbers are a part of the business. And if there's pushback,
Yeah.
then to me, I'm all about accountability. What did I miss in terms of the onboarding and the culture side that I didn't let them know that this is it? Like
Yeah.
what could I have done to better convey the message, if you will?
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that. I think too, really quickly, I'll share a little bit about how, Gloss Genius can help accomplish some of this culture of numbers stuff. And, I love your strategy of, printing out numbers every week and letting people know here's where we are against our group goals. But let's also have those deep conversations about where does your life net out at the end of this too, right?
Mhm.
Gloss Genius has a really cool goal setting feature. So I want to share a little bit about this because I think this really gets to the heart of what you're sharing. So if you have a team on Gloss Genius within the app, you can set specific visual goals for each team member. They can then track their own progress against retail, service targets, etc., in real time on their own devices. So it kind of turns these like numbers, these things that feel a little bit inaccessible into a personal game that they can really win. And I think with the coaching alongside this, these dream sesh, moments where you can kind of really tie success against these goals to, personal successes. I think that's a really amazing win-win combination that's worth looking at. And then in general, I think what's really special about Gloss Genius is that, it's empowering for entire teams. You can see your own personal analytics even outside this goal setting feature, creating a lot of ownership and understanding of how things are trending. So again, culture of numbers is big, and it's one team, one dream in an ideal salon, I think. So
I
yeah.
love this. This is amazing.
Awesome, guys. Well, let me move on to our third strategy here. So, once the mindset is right, the team's bought in, it might be time to start looking at the math. So, another area of optimization here is your menu.
Mhm.
Um, Nina, how do you think that most owners are potentially getting their pricing wrong when it comes to service menus?
Well, pricing is kind of one bucket, and then we have the menu that's the other bucket, right? So pricing is just pricing based on guessing, salon down the street, where I came from, feels good type thing, right? That's kind of where we're getting it wrong, as opposed to pricing based on facts and data from their own business, understanding their price per minute, price per hour, and also thinking about their timing, because price and time are married, right? We can't live without each other. And we could have, I know people who are priced really well, but they take extremely long with their services. And if we could tighten that up a little bit, their price per minute, price per hour skyrockets. So we do have to pay attention to that. When it
Right.
comes to the menu side of it, a lot of times, and I've been talking a lot about menu lately because it's so important in terms of what consumer behavior is showing, is that clients want transparency. They want to know what they're going to be spending. They want to know what's included in their service, and they want it in terms that they understand. So one of the things that we kind of want to steer clear of is having a menu that's way, 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 way long, right?
Yeah.
Also having a menu that positions themselves in a way of selling technique as opposed to delivering results.
Right.
So the menu should really, I just did a post about this actually on Instagram, but the menu should really talk about results, and in ways, and frame it in ways that it's not like balayage or foliage, or it should really be like brightening or lightening, or in terms that they understand so they can wrap their head around it. Because when a client is confused about your menu, they could leave and go somewhere else. If they have so many choices and they don't understand what it is, everybody's quick, quick, quick. We want results quick. We want to book fast. We want to do the things. Nobody has time for anything. So the longer they have to kind of like look up what things mean, the more chance we have of losing them. So simple is best when it comes to menu.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. I think it's such a great point. You think about, even something like an add-on service, like
Mhm.
a deep condition. It's like, well, what
Mhm.
is that going to do for me? These terminologies matter so much when it comes to actually pressing buy or book on a
For
service.
sure. Absolutely. And I think the other thing that's important now is making sure that you have an express menu on your website,
Yeah.
because express services have been climbing since 2024. And actually, 2024 to 2025, express services were up 26%.
Oh,
And making this an actual item on your menu with more efficient services, right? Because people, and I say this all the time, and I'm like, please hear me. People skirt sometimes their deep conditioning treatments or their gloss treatments. With Colora, they process in 3 to 10 minutes, so it's so quick. And people are like, it's a $25 or $30 treatment. Let me tell you right now, those services, if priced properly, typically have the highest profit margin.
yeah.
So don't overlook those services, those express services, even like 10-minute color, game changer. I've seen price per minutes go from $1.50 to $2.25 with 10-minute color. So
Yeah.
highlight them on your menu so they're really in the client's face. And of course, this is something that they're asking for. So it's a quick grab and it's easy for them to book it.
Yeah. No, I think we can put ourselves in the client shoes here of like it's a busy world we live in, and the idea
Mhm.
of like a quick pamper makes so much sense. Not to mention just like those special occasions, those moments in time where you really want to invest in yourself. And yeah, maybe an added service that is priced a bit higher is more
Mhm.
so that makes so much sense. Um, with that being said, I want to kind of double click on that positioning piece. So I think we have some folks in the audience who are Gloss Genius members who have experience using Gloss Genius. You can create this very high end digital menu with our platform. So basically, this is something that can woo the client before they even arrive. And service descriptions allow you to sell the transformation, not just the time. So, to Nina's point, whether it's the name of the service, the copy, the body of the service, making sure that you're driving that clarity for what is the intended outcome of this treatment. Can't recommend enough in terms of actually kind of tailoring your approach to your clientele. Plus, the ability to add service options within Gloss Genius makes service upsell a really easy part of booking. So, again, adding those additional services, those shorter services, express menu.
Mhm.
Really a great opportunity here. And it's also really easy to upsell these when you're pre-booking your clients too. So, not only like when they're booking themselves, but when you're booking somebody again through the checkout flow with Gloss Genius, this is a great and simple moment to kind of get
Mhm.
those added treatments in. So something to consider there too. But also just a plug for service images, really showing off your work. And again, those outcomes, they become very visual and very real when you add service images in a thoughtful way.
Mhm.
So something to think about too.
Yes, absolutely.
Amazing. Nina just dropped a question along these lines, and I would love to hear from folks. If you have an express menu, if you have any popular add-ons, mini
Mhm.
services, anything like that, do you feel good? Now that we've discussed this, is it priced correctly for the time it takes? Does anybody feel like they're motivated to make any changes based on what we just talked about? I'm curious if anybody has any reactions to
I know
this.
I'm waiting. I'm like looking at the chat. Like, do they have Express? If I could add I want to add the
Absolutely.
5 key components to pricing just so they
Yeah.
have a better idea. When you're thinking about pricing services, we're looking at a few things. We're looking at your hours worked. We're looking at your total business expenses. We're looking at your target profit. We are looking at your, oh my goodness, I'm blanking. Should know all these off the top of my head. Total business expenses. I'm having a moment. Oh my gosh, I can't think of all the things. Hours worked, target profit, total business expenses. Obviously, we have to do some market research, and the
Yeah.
time it takes to do the service.
Yeah. Really
So,
critical. Time is
yes.
money.
Yes. Oh my gosh, exactly. And understanding product cost per service. There's a difference between ordering every month and replenishing back bar as opposed to what it should cost you per service.
Right.
And I'll give you like a little nugget here, which hopefully you guys just latch onto this. Your product cost per service should be less than, so 15% or less than the price of the service.
Wow.
So 15% or less of the price of the service, that should be your total product cost. So just dropping some little nuggets here so you guys can hang on to them. When we hang up the call, hopefully you can, start figuring out some of this stuff for your services.
Love that. No, that's such a great tidbit. I hope guys in the audience, you're writing some little notes. I think that's a
Yeah.
great one. That is a great kernel. And by the way, we are going to share out this recording after the fact. So if anybody wants to go back and really like relive any of Nina's pieces of wisdom, you will have the opportunity to do that. It sounds like a lot of people in the audience are doing some express services, which is
Mhm.
really exciting. Including some people who are just getting around to the idea of maybe charging for some things like deep conditioning, which is really exciting. So, I think definitely worth a second look considering the money that you could be leaving on the table.
Mhm.
Really exciting. It's great. Awesome, guys. Um, Amazing. So I'm going to move on to our next section here. So really excited to talk about our fourth strategy, which is
Mhm.
around the value chain, which is a concept that Nina shared with us when we were prepping. So client relationships are a really critical piece of profitability. And so Nina, I wonder if you can explain to us, what a value chain is and how do we build this in a way that drives revenue at every step of the client experience?
I think a lot of people used to think that value was like snacks and drinks and all those things. While all those are great, right? That's kind of like a norm right now. Like you got to give a snack and a drink. People are expecting that. But it really is about how you build relationships with your clients. And by the way, the relationship starts before they even come in. So that's why having a system like Gloss Genius where the booking is seamless, like that has to be a part of it. So the relationships obviously build value. Your consistency in your approach in the way that you are doing their service adds value. We can't have one time you show up and it's a banger and you knock it out of the park. And then the next time they come in and it's like falling flat,
Right.
right? It's the way you treat people and the way that you make them feel. And there are different components to this. And I think we went a little bit to one side where we forgot that this business is based on relationships and everything got so structured like boundaries, this, like, which I understand. And I talk about boundaries a lot. But remember, anything in excess becomes a weakness. We forgot that there is a foundational relationship and why people trust us and why they buy from us and why they support us.
Right.
So I think, one of those things is the booking, how you're communicating with your people. Is your communication clear? Can they reach you and contact you? at all hours of the night. You're not going to respond at all hours of the night. But in 2026, clients want to have that digital interaction with people, and they want to be able to like message you about something, and then you can respond during your business hours. But there's something that we're going to talk about in terms of this form that I think is really going to be helpful when it comes to building value and creating value with your client.
Love it. No, and I think, when you explained your intake form strategy, this was mind blowing to me. I think the way you break it down is so great. But this is another way that you can start to create that chain before the person even walks through the door in most cases. So
Mhm.
I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, of course. So I have an intake form that it's only in my courses, but I've been sharing a little bit about it because you can simplistically make some sort of form that will be beneficial in terms of these three areas. Because people think intake form. I want to preface this. The intake form is actually sent to them after they book the appointment,
Okay.
because there was a situation that was going on let me say, the last 6 months or so, where people were creating these long intake forms and they're gatekeeping their own clients from booking with them, because in order for them to book, they had to fill out a novel for them to get an appointment.
Fair.
And so this intake form, which I'm talking about, does three things. Number one, it really heightens the relationship and builds trust with your clients, because on the intake form, it has information that your standard, like name, address, how do you prefer to be, get your reminders and all of that. But we do start to add some consultation questions in there as well. So we're already starting to get to know them better. Number two, we talk about protecting the business. So on my intake form, there's actually a spot where it lays out all of your policies, your no-show policy, your cancellation policy, all of the lateness policy, and the client actually has to sign off and agree to those policies. So now we're protecting you and your business. And the last thing is that we actually upsell the client before they even come in. So we talked about that little consultation section. Well, now we have a section that has some of your favorite added value services with a little description. And it says, would you like to learn more about these during your appointment? So let's just say they check off like Colora Gloss, like a gloss treatment, or Colora 10-minute, 10-minute hair color. Now that opens the door for you to really talk to them. And I cannot tell you how many of my students have upselling their clients and turning $60 appointments into 105, or $45 appointments into $90 appointments. It's just having the right tools and the right system. And I know that Gloss has a lot of, insight on this too, and resources that you can use. So I think intake forms are like a lost art. I think people really need to lean into them a little bit differently than just trying to use them to like gatekeep clients.
I love it. No, that makes so much sense. And I think, particularly the piece around upsell, I think is such a unique take here where, really kind of gaining that consent to have the discussion before they
Mhm.
walk in. Love that. I think it really builds that relationship, that rapport before
Sure.
the service begins. Um, well, Nina gestured at this already, but we do have a system for this in Gloss Genius, which is really exciting. I think many of you guys might be familiar with the ability to take deposits and really clearly articulate your cancellation and no-show policies through Gloss Genius. So that's absolutely one way that we kind of help cover and protect your business. But we also have a few other tools that help you build a value chain and administer key forms. So one piece I think is a great call out is the Gloss Genius booking site. So it's not just a calendar, it's a branded storefront. And Nina did share at this point, clients are really expecting online booking. It's kind of table stakes. It's something that they really hope to see from any pro that they're going to, book in with, any salon they're going to book in with. We've designed a booking site that we're super proud of. We think it's the most beautiful in the industry because we know that a sophisticated experience allows you to charge more, get in front of those clients that you want to, and give them that really like special brand experience from moment one. So starting to build that chain very early in the process. And then we also have customizable forms and waivers. So folks haven't had experience with this yet or haven't experimented with forms and waivers, now might be a good time. So they can partner really well with the intake system that Nina described. You can send these out automatically before appointments, collect those hair or skin goals, history, etc. get to know your client, take all that key information down, make them feel really cared for. You can also create custom questions based on your specialty and your goals. I know people had some questions around whether or not this is a good system, just for hair, if it's something that can work for other verticals. I think these principles can apply to everyone. And you can really specialize the kinds of questions, and including the kinds of upsell questions that you're asking through our forms and waivers. And I think another critical piece, and I think this is a little bit of a preference thing, you can set how often clients need to refill them for consistent upsell opportunities, or maybe, depending on your priorities, you might want to do them less frequently. So just something to think about. And then lastly, I'll mention on forms and waivers, we have pre-made templates too. So, you can build your own, you can create custom forms, but no matter what, your business is covered and your clients are feeling protected and bought in, which is key. And then, last thing I'll just mention is that clients are really engaged, and you kind of continue to build that sense of 24/7 connection with text and email marketing. So something that's built into the Gloss Genius platform is a CRM that you can then send emails and texts to, as well as an AI tool in there that helps you draft really compelling messages to your clients. So you're not having to constantly use that brain power, but clients still get that sensation of constant interaction, which we're in a very online world. So it's something to think about for sure. Amazing. So I have one question for you guys coming out of that. Another check for the chat. So what is one thing that you do to increase the value of your client experience? I'm curious if anybody has any reactions to this, wants to inspire each other.
Yes.
What's something that you're doing now that you think really enhances this? Typers. Scalp massage. That is a major hack. Hot towels, in-depth consultations.
Amen.
Yes.
Keep them coming. Amen.
Yes. Notes are important. Yeah, Trish, that's a great call out. Just making sure that you note of like those big moments. Nina, I'm sure you've seen this work well for folks.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's like when you call people their name, they have a reaction, they have a response to that, and really calling, I think they say you should call their name 3 times within a service, but knowing the details and oh, how was your vacation? What did you do that was fun? Remembering all of those details. Again, that's the value, that's building that value chain of trust. It's not just like a service. It's really that you're taking the time to remember all of the little details. And I will say, the consistency of, remember the first time someone comes in and you're like, oh my God, Kelly, it's so nice to see you. I love you. Come on over. Let me get you a drink, right? We do all the things. And then by the third time they come in, we're like, all right, Kelly, go ahead, have a seat, fix your drink. Right? We have to still date people. We're still in the courting stage every single time. And when it comes to that kind of value and that level of consistency, people will really rock with you. Like they really will stay with you for sure, because they're like, wow, she's treating me the same every single time. Even when I've been here 15 times, it still feels like the first.
Absolutely. And I think, having been through like a wedding prep year as a client, I remember feeling very excited when people, even though, I'm in the business, I know how it goes, but I really appreciated people saying to me, oh, well, let's make a plan. Like, I know that your wedding is this date, like, so let's book you for this service and so on. Like having these sort of like moments that you take note of can be such an opportunity, not only just for that like human connection, but also for upsell, for pre-booking, for getting people back in your chair in your treatment room. It goes so far. It feels very thoughtful.
Absolutely. I am here for all of it. And now more than ever, because people are being more particular about where they're spending their money.
Yep.
They are spending money where they see and feel the most value.
Yep.
Period.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I love some of these comments that are coming in around music preferences. I love when people do that. I think that's great, documenting those in the notes. Sending thank you notes thoughtfully on social media or even in a handwritten format, which is beautiful.
Yes. I live for a handwritten thank you card. Yes.
Yeah, really great stuff here. I'm feeling very inspired. I hope everybody is feeling super inspired by some of these thoughts. Yeah, the name thing is huge. So I think everyone takes that one home with them. That's great. Cool.
Love all of this. This is so good.
Great inspo in the chat. Amazing. Well, I know we're going to save a little time at the end for some questions, but in the meantime, let's talk about the last strategy of tonight's chat. So, this is sometimes the least glamorous, but inventory is really, really important. A lot of out of control costs that can come with it. Nina, I wonder from your perspective, like what are the most common mistakes you see here and maybe some ways to avoid them?
When it comes to inventory, it is literally quality control. Like it's not overspending, not buying stuff that you don't need. And I really recommend a strategy there. Like when you're ordering product that you're ordering, whether it's every week, bi-weekly, every month, whatever works best for your system in your business, but ordering it as opposed to going into the beauty supply, because that is just like, we just start pulling stuff off the shelf and buying stuff that we don't need. And now we're overspending. So really have an ordering system and an inventory system that you're tracking. Inventory should be done at least once a month. The other thing too is not taking cost into account into your pricing. We talked about this a little bit, excuse me, but when people are pricing services and they are not taking into account that they may possibly be using a full tube of color per se, or maybe they're using two.
Yeah.
I love to, I have a document in my courses that list out like what is included with each and every service when it comes to product. So that way you're not going over that 15%. And just for an example, like if you're doing a basic root retouch up, like a touch up service, typically we would include 60 to 80 grams of color and developer with that service. And that's already boxed in with the price. Now, if we're not doing that, let's just say Kelly hasn't been in for 15 months and now she has 4 inches of regrowth. There are a lot of people who will charge the same price for this, for someone who's coming in every 4 weeks. You're using so much more product and you're spending a lot more time with that client. So we want to make sure that we're charging accordingly. And then, of course, not buying product that we don't need. It's kind of like making sure that we know how much product we should have an Excel sheet or a document of some sort, or maybe in the system that's keeping track for you of what you're using versus what you're purchasing. And there always should be an on-hand quantity for every single tube of color, for every piece of, developer, for all the boxes of gloves that you have. Everything should have on-hand quantity. And that way, when it's gone and it's used, then it will kick you to reorder that. Instead of just saying, okay, well, I think I used 3 tubes of this. Let me add 3 more tubes when you really only used 1. And now you just spent whatever, $15, $20 on product that you don't need. Well, do that times 10, times 20. Now we're just overspending on stuff that just isn't being tracked.
100%. Yeah, no, there's nothing more devastating than having, stuff on the shelves that's just not going anywhere, right? So we want to avoid that wherever possible. I think something that can be helpful for those of us who, haven't tried Gloss Genius yet, or maybe you're already using the system, maybe not taking full advantage of inventory management. We have some tools in there that can really help with some of these common issues. One is integrating your inventory with your point of sale makes life so much easier. So your product quantities are going to auto update after sales to avoid manual counting. Plus, purchases are saved to each client profile, so you can keep track of preferences, which also kind of gets this point of like, what am I keeping on hand? Why? For what purpose? Helps you kind of crunch the numbers there. In terms of reporting, it's really easy to identify your top sellers, see which products need restocking, and get a snapshot of everything that you have right now, all from one place. And so just really easy to get an understanding of where you need to be ordering more, ordering less, what's moving, what's not, and so on. And then the last thing, and this I think is maybe the biggest game changer in talking to some of our members, you guys haven't explored Genius Shop yet, highly recommend. So basically, Gloss Genius lets you know when things are on low quantity. Genius Shop, which is now connected to your Gloss Genius inventory, lets you shop and save in one wholesale marketplace. So basically, you have multiple distributors, you can compare pricing, and then easily order and auto upload new quantities. So your product's on the way, your inventory is updated, you're kind of in control of your whole inventory life, which is really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard from some folks that it's making those last minute runs to salon centric a thing of the past. So hopefully folks are maybe interested, but I would highly recommend checking it out. Just experiment with it and see how it works for you. But That way, you're not overspending during those mid-month runs and you're being really lean, really mean with your cash flow. No more panic ordering is the goal here. So definitely check it out. And I see some people are trying it, which is so exciting. Very
I
cool.
love that. I do. If I can add something about retail, because I think this is so important.
Yeah.
When it comes to retail, how many of you have products sitting on your shelf that you're not selling? Because think about it, it's dollars that are sitting that you could be using to invest or reinvest back into your business.
Yeah.
So it's like money that's just kind of hanging out. And I know retail has changed a lot over the last 5 years. There are a lot of different ways that um, product can be sold. And I think that a lot of people are condensing the amount of retail that they have on their shelf because there are other ways that it can be sold where you're being compensated.
Yeah.
If you're a solopreneur and you're, in a suite or you're renting a chair, you don't have room and time to have all this inventory, right? But retail still is a very important part of the client experience. So you maybe have to just adjust how you're carrying these products or how you're going to sell this product so you can still make it a part of the client experience, but you're not having to carry and hold all of this inventory.
Yeah. Love it. No, it makes sense. I think we have to be responsive to what's going on in the world and also just responsive to your own business. Like you guys
Yes.
know your clients well, right? And so
Mhm.
tailoring that retail experience to what they've come to expect, that's where you should, kind of have your head, I think, at this point. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Amazing, guys. Well, I know we're getting a little short on time, which is exciting. I want to flash up this slide. As I mentioned, I keep mentioning this, but if those of us who maybe joined a little bit late, if you want to revisit any of the awesome things we've discussed tonight, we are going to be sharing a recording. Another great option is screenshotting this slide. I always like to provide this because I think some people get value out of it.
So
I know it's
good.
a little wordy, but screenshot it, grab this, and then that way you have a little moment in your files, something that you can keep an eye on if you want to kind of have an at-a-glance view of what we discussed tonight. But to really quickly recap, 5 things to think about here when we're trying to address a radical shift in our profitability as a beauty and wellness business owner. 1, we're going to want to shift financial mindsets. 2, cultivate a numbers-driven culture among your team. 3, optimize your service menu. 4, build a seamless value chain with clients, growing that value before they even step in the door. And 5, mastering your inventory. So tackling these issues from these 5 angles, I think gives you a really great path to success. So definitely take that screenshot. I want to also just take 1 second to make a quick ask of the team before we, of everybody here before we jump into the Q&A. But basically, if you guys are interested in learning more about Gloss Genius, I know we covered a good amount tonight. If you want to take some of this and put it into action, highly recommend scheduling a demo with our real human team here at Gloss Genius, who will sit with you, walk you through what you want to know, answer all of your nitty-gritty questions about the platform, what it can do for you. Simply scan this code. Operators are standing by. Schedule your time. They will love to chat with you. We have availability all the time, so definitely check that out and learn a little bit more about what Gloss Genius can do for you and your business. So yeah, scan this QR. We'll also, again, we'll share a link async to you over email, so keep an eye out. But we'd be excited to have you join us. And with that, let's jump into our Q&A. So I think we have some questions. We have a good amount of time to cover them, which is exciting. Let's see what we got going on. Let me go in the questions tab here. I know, Nina, you talked a little bit about pricing strategy and like all the things that go into pricing. Could you explain a bit more about cost per minute? I know Siobhan in the audience was maybe just looking for a little bit more clarity about, price per minute and how you kind of uncover that piece of information.
Sure. Yeah, great question. So just very simple for you guys to start, just understanding how to calculate your price per minute right now is the way to start. Super simple and easy calculation. It is the price of the service divided by the minutes of the service. That's going to give you a current read on your prices right now. Now, the tricky part is I wish I could tell you there is like this magical number, like everybody should be at $1.50 price per minute. It doesn't work like that, because based on my calculators, how we get down to the nitty gritty is that everything is coming from your facts and data. And I start with budgeting first. I don't price without doing a budget in your business first. So once we have all of the budgeting information, it will convert to a price per minute, price per hour, and it will give you a baseline price per minute, which is where you should be. And then it will give you a target price per minute, which is where you need to be, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going through your services today and you want to do some homework, which I love, look at all of your services today. And just to give you an example, if you are actually, I have a question if they want to get in the chat.
Yeah, let's do it.
Based on what I mentioned, the 5 areas and 5 targets of pricing services, which service should have a higher price per minute? Would it be a root retouch service and a haircut together as a package, or would it be a highlight service and a haircut as a package? Just curious to know what you guys think, which should have the higher price per minute based on the 5 factors of pricing that we did share. Yes, the formula, again, just so you guys, while you're typing, if you want to listen, the formula for price per minute is the price of the service divided by the minutes of the service. So price divided by minutes of the service. So we got some answers coming in. Highlight, highlight, root touch up, highlight, highlight. I think highlight. Perfect. Love it. This is really good. So yes, the highlight service and haircut should have a higher price per minute because more product, more time, more labor intensive, right? So if you are behind the scenes and you're in the salon world and you start calculating your services and you see that your root touch-up service or your blonding service, your highlight service is lower in price per minute than your touch-up service, it may be an indicator that that highlight service needs to be bumped. So just a little food for thought. And I would go home and calculate all of your services, or tomorrow when you get into the salon. That way you can see where you're at.
Love it. No, I think that's some really excellent homework. I feel like a question we're getting a little bit is around express services and maybe some ideas for express service menus. We might not be able to hit every single vertical or group here tonight, but Nina, I wonder if you have any like good kind of rules of thumb or just general places to start if you're not in the express service world, but you're thinking about how can I get it in there?
I mean, I think anything that, like, first of all, you should all have some sort of signature treatment, whether you're a massage therapist, an esthetician, hairstylist, barber, you should have some sort of signature 5-minute treatment. It could be, for the barbers, it may be something that has to do with beards. If you're a massage therapy, it may be some sort of extra that you can add on that's going to really elevate the client experience. That's just a quickie express 5 minutes. But in the hair world, an express service that's 5 minutes, that is a signature. So you're naming it something that has to do with your brand to make it super easy and for it to stand out. Like a deep conditioning treatment. Maybe you're mixing an oil right in front of them and you're kind of cocktailing it right in front of them and you're actually doing the service at the chair as opposed to doing it at the bowl. That's a higher elevated service. That could be one of the things that you have on your menu just to start. And of course, any 10-minute hair color service should absolutely, color 10, of course. Oligo would be great, but any 10-minute color service should be front and center on your express service menu.
Love it. No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, sometimes it's about the delivery. It's about truly the experience. Like you're mentioning massage here of like an aromatherapy add-on that takes you 5 minutes and very little product to execute, but can really make a client experience super elevated and special. So that's a great one. Yeah, and I think I love this idea too of like this, forgive me for this metaphor, but it's like when you go to a restaurant and you pay extra for tableside guacamole, you have somebody doing it in front of you, right? It's like we all have this experience, right? We all go to restaurants. Sometimes it's this concept of seeing the work be done can really, like, in an interesting way, create a little bit additional value there. And then even like I see someone talking about lashes. An idea that comes to mind is like maybe it's even like a custom consultation. It's like taking an extra 5 or 10 minutes to have a really in-depth conversation and even show them how you're manipulating the lash to create a special lash just for them. Like that's an idea, right? So hopefully that's sparking some thoughts for folks. But these can be very, very short but special treatments, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah, for sure. I want to address Amber's comment. Would you put grams of color on the website in your description? I wouldn't. That's nothing that the client needs to understand. This is all back end stuff for you. So you know how much you're mixing and what's inclusive. Now you can tell them in a consultation, hey, with this service and with this price, this is, we're including a certain amount of product. However, if we do go over that, then this is what would be extra, right? So don't ever pigeonhole yourself and put yourself in a box when it comes to pricing and consultation. Give a range that way, and you can explain to them that more time, more product, then we would be charging for that.
Love that. No, I think that's a really great call out. Okay, I'm diving into the questions tab again. Someone has an interesting question about pricing being different for regular interval clients versus like every 4 weeks versus 8 weeks. Do you have any
Mhm.
perspective on that, Nina? Is that something that you would recommend?
No, it's all the same, right? Because you're doing the same service. If Kelly comes in 4 weeks or 6 weeks, you're still going to be spending primarily the same amount of time with her. And I think when we start doing that, people start expecting it and it can start to devalue the brand. If you want to get cute though, and say you have someone coming in every 3 weeks, like I used to have 3-week clients, every now and then I would throw them, a complimentary deep conditioning treatment that I would add on. I would throw in a gloss treatment and I would explain why. I love you, Lisa. You're here every 3 weeks. I'm going to give you this gloss complimentary this week because you're here so often and I really value and appreciate you. So before you start taking off prices and like lowering your prices because they're coming in so much, I wouldn't do that because it's hard to sustain. You can throw in little bits and pieces here to just like give them something to let you know that you value and appreciate them without lowering your prices. That was a great question.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, diving back into the chat. Heather had a question about memberships. How do you feel, Nina, about memberships as like a tool, something that people can use?
Yeah, I think memberships work for some and not so much for others. It depends on the business, it depends on the brand. I feel like, there are some salon owners that I work with that love blowout memberships because they work really well for their business. And also it's great for up and coming artists to get practice doing a lot of blowouts if they have someone on a membership. And you could, you're going to reduce the price, right? If you're reducing, if they're going to getting all of these services blowouts, then do we reduce the price, or do we throw in free product, or do we give them a discount on product? Like, how do we want to navigate that? I think certain membership items are great, but I think when we start to get into color services, sometimes it could be a little bit tricky just because are you losing more money than you're actually getting in the volume back from the membership itself?
Really great point. And I love this point around like emerging artists, that being a great tool for them and getting those clients in the door
Yeah,
and booked into the future. I think that's so smart.
yeah, for sure.
I think we have a couple minutes left. We might be able to hit maybe 1 to 2 more questions. I see Andrea asked a question that I think is on a lot of people's minds around
Sure.
price increases, especially in these economic times. How do you not scare off clients when you're introducing some new pricing, potentially some increases? Any advice for that, Nina?
Short, simple, sweet, and transparent.
Yeah.
I feel like we don't need to go overboard when we're explaining pricing because we're all living in this world where we know costs have gone up.
Yeah.
So people are really more understanding. I've done more price increases with my clients this past year than ever, and nobody's saying anything because they know costs are going up. So I think, again, going back to the mindset, which was number one that we talked about today, your mindset going into this price increase is what's going to set off the client. So if we go in more confident and say, hey, just want to give you a heads up, we're increasing prices, or I'm increasing prices by 10% starting this date. I truly appreciate your support over the years. If you have any questions, let me know. They know it's because costs are going up. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to go into a novel. I think simple is best. And I think the fact that you're telling them and you're giving them the time to process that, I think is a good idea. Does it work for everyone? Not necessarily. Sometimes my clients just want to roll up next week and have a price increase. Do that if it aligns with your brand and your values. But I think the more scared we are, the more they sense it and the more apprehensive they are about the price increase. If
Yeah,
they try to go somewhere else, they're going to probably pay more, especially if you haven't had a price increase in a long time. So again, keep your value intact and be very honest without going into so much detail about it.
definitely. No, I think that's excellent advice, especially at a time, to Andrea's point and yours, this has become a very common
Mhm. Yeah,
question.
for sure.
Amazing. Well, guys, we are just about at time. Nina, do you want to tell everybody like where they can find you? I dropped your IG in the chat a little bit
Yeah.
earlier, but let's let you have a plug moment before we sign off.
Of course. Well, I live on Instagram. So just if you have questions and we weren't able to get to them today, I'm more than happy to answer them for you. You can slide into my DMs. I run my page. I answer every single question. I'm here for it. I want to let you guys know that you are supported. And you can check out my website it's at ninatulio.com. And I have a lot of information on there. There's a lot of free guides. There's profit calculators for free that you can run your own numbers. You can dive into some courses if you want to get deeper, but I would check that out and see what aligns and what feels good for you. And then if you need anything else, you can just hit me up and on the DMs.
Love it. Thank you so much, Nina, for your time and
Thank
amazing
you.
advice tonight. Reminder to you guys, recording is coming to you, but in the meantime, if you haven't checked out Gloss Genius, now is a great time to. Our QR code is still up, so if you want to spend some time with our team and learn more about the platform, you are more than welcome to. But again, I want to thank everybody for spending your time with us today. I
Thank
think this was
you.
an awesome session. Thank you, Nina, and have an amazing night, everybody.
Yes. Thank you for having me. See you later. Bye.
See you guys.